I've worked at Riverton Motors for almost a decade, long enough to know that a dealership isn't just a place for transactions. It's a place where judgment can move faster than a test drive, and where true character, or the lack of it, shows itself faster than the blink of an eye. It was a Tuesday morning when she walked in. Petite, maybe mid-50s, wearing a simple gray cardigan that looked a size too big for her frame. She clutched a leather purse tightly against her side like it was her last lifeline. Her eyes, wide, cautious, and a little lost, scanned the showroom. Nobody rushed to greet her. I caught the moment from across the floor. Jake, one of our younger salesmen, elbowed Kyle and snickered. "Charity case," he muttered, a smirk playing on his lips. Kyle laughed a little too loudly, and a few others joined in. I frowned, but stayed silent. After all, the dealership had become a Shark Tank lately, and management liked it that way. I watched as she hesitated, stepping closer to the front desk where Cassidy sat, manicured nails, tapping away at her phone. Cassidy glanced up, wrinkled her nose slightly, and then, without even standing, barked, "Trade-ins are handled in the service bay." Around the back. The woman blinked, startled, but nodded and shuffled back toward the exit. Her shoes made soft, scuffing sounds against the polished floor. It was barely 10 seconds of interaction, but it gnawed at me. Something about her. Something that didn't sit right. I told myself to let it go. I had my own appointments lined up. I had quotas to meet. But my feet moved before my brain could catch up. I jogged after her, reaching the entrance just as she pushed against the heavy glass door. "Ma'am," I called, trying to soften my voice. She turned, her eyes wary. "Can I help you?" For a moment, she just stared at me, like she was debating whether to trust me or bolt. Then she spoke, voice trembling but clear. "My husband. He passed away last month. This was his car." She held up a folder, edges frayed. "I need to sell it. I can't afford to keep it." Her words hung in the air, heavy and fragile. I nodded slowly. "Of course. I'm sorry for your loss. Let's take care of this properly." She blinked again. This time, not in shock, but maybe in disbelief. I gestured for her to follow me to my desk. Behind us, I caught Jake rolling his eyes dramatically to Kyle. Cassidy let out an audible sigh. I felt my stomach knot, but I pushed it down. They didn't matter right now. She did. When we sat down, she handed me the folder. Inside were immaculate service records, the original bill of sale, even handwritten notes about oil changes and tire rotations. Every detail was carefully logged in blue ink. It spoke volumes about the man she lost and the life she was trying to preserve, even in the middle of her grief. The car was a 2017 Lincoln Continental. Black, fully loaded, low mileage, a good car, one we could easily resell at a premium, if we didn't lowball her into nothingness first. I looked up. "What are you hoping to get for it?" She hesitated. "I don't really know," she said. "Enough to help me start over, I guess." I nodded again, pretending not to see her grip tighten around her purse. "I'll have our appraiser take a quick look," I said, standing up. "Would you like some coffee while you wait?" She shook her head. "I'll just sit here, if that's okay." "Of course," I said. "Right here is perfect." I made my way to the back office where Travis, our official appraiser, lounged with a half-eaten sandwich in hand. "Got a live one?" he asked, smirking. "It's not like that," I said. "It's a widow trying to sell her late husband's Lincoln. It's clean, good mileage, well kept." Travis shrugged. "We'll give her $8,000 tops, maybe less." I blinked. $8,000? That car's worth almost triple that in this market. He grinned, teeth flashing under the fluorescent lights. "Yeah, but she doesn't know that. It's called margin, buddy. Welcome to the real world." I clenched my fists at my sides. "You seriously okay with that?" I asked, taking advantage of someone who's clearly struggling. He shrugged again, unconcerned. "Business is business. You don't like it? Maybe you're in the wrong business." The words sliced deeper than they should have. I turned on my heel and stormed back toward my desk. As I approached, I noticed something that stopped me cold. Cassidy was leaning over the woman, voice low but urgent. Jake and Kyle hovered nearby, pretending to shuffle papers. All three of them had the same predatory look. Cassidy whispered, "Just so you know, these guys are going to screw you over no matter what. Best you can hope for is a little cash and no headaches." She offered a tight, insincere smile. "Maybe $5,000, tops. Take it and walk." The woman's shoulders slumped visibly. Her grip on her purse slackened, and for a moment she looked defeated. I felt my jaw clench so hard it hurt. This wasn't just business anymore. This was predation. And something inside me snapped. I wasn't about to let it slide. Not this time. I cleared my throat loudly as I approached. Cassidy straightened instantly, schooling her face into a sugary smile. Jake and Kyle drifted back toward their desks, pretending to be busy. I knelt slightly so I could meet the widow's eyes. "I apologize for the confusion," I said gently. "You're in good hands. We'll get you a fair evaluation. No games." For the briefest moment, something flickered across her face. Hope? Distrust? I couldn't tell. "Thank you," she whispered. Cassidy turned on her heel, muttering something under her breath that I caught just enough of. Idiot's wasting his time. I ignored her. I needed to focus. I escorted the widow, her name was Laura, I finally learned, to the side lot where her car waited. It was spotless, as if someone had lovingly washed it just that morning. The black paint gleamed under the pale spring sun. Even the tires looked almost new. I popped the hood, checked the VIN, ran a quick scan. Everything came back flawless. No codes, no warnings, no hidden damage. But just as I was closing the hood, something odd caught my eye. A small envelope tucked discreetly under the windshield wiper. I pulled it free and turned it over. No name, no address, just a single word written in shaky block letters. For you. I glanced at Laura. She looked as confused as I felt. "I didn't put that there," she said quickly, almost defensively. I opened the envelope. Inside was a single piece of paper, and one line written in uneven script. "Trust no one at Riverton Motors." I stared at the message, heart thudding. Laura peered over my shoulder, her face going pale. "What does it mean?" she asked, voice trembling. I didn't know. But suddenly, everything felt 10 degrees colder. Back inside, Travis was waiting by my desk, arms crossed, a smug look pasted on his face. He slapped a piece of paper down in front of me. $7,500, he announced loudly. "That's the best we can do." I stared at him. "You didn't even test drive it," I said flatly. "Don't need to," he said. "Market's soft. Plenty of used cars sitting unsold." It was a lie. Inventory had never been tighter. Prices were at an all-time high. Any other dealership would have begged to get a Lincoln this clean. Laura looked between us, confused. I forced a calm smile. "Do you mind giving us a moment?" I asked Travis. "I'll handle it from here." He shrugged, already walking away, whistling tunelessly. I leaned closer to Laura. "Don't take that offer," I said quietly. "Not yet." "But I need the money," she whispered. "I can't keep paying the insurance. I can't even—" She choked slightly, tears welling. "I can't even afford the storage unit where I put his things." Her voice cracked at the last word. I swallowed hard. This wasn't just a car sale. It was survival. And they were using her desperation against her. I made a decision right then. A reckless one. One that could cost me my job. "Give me 1 hour," I said. "Trust me." She blinked at me, confused but desperate enough to nod. I slipped into my office, locking the door behind me. Pulled out my phone. There were people I knew, friends, old classmates, who managed private dealerships and collector inventories. And one name stuck out. Marcus Vance, owner of Vance Elite Motors, a high-end boutique dealership 2 towns over. He owed me a favor. I called him. praying he'd answer. After 3 rings, he picked up. "Alex?" "Man, it's been years." "Yeah," I said quickly. "Listen, I have a 2017 Lincoln Continental, showroom condition, low miles, single owner, full service history. Interested?" There was a pause. "How much you asking?" I lowered my voice. "Private sale. She needs at least $20,000. Book value's higher, but she's desperate." Another pause. Then, "I'll give you $22,000 if it checks out." Relief washed through me like a crashing wave. "Done. I'll bring it to you today if you can cut a check immediately." "You got it," he said. I ended the call, adrenaline surging. I had a way out for her. But now came the harder part, sneaking her in the car out without the sharks noticing. I found Laura still sitting stiffly at my desk, twisting her purse strap into knots. "Good news," I said, crouching beside her. "I found a buyer willing to pay you $22,000. Today. Cashier's check. No games." Her mouth fell open. Tears welled in her eyes again, but this time they were different. Not grief, but disbelief. Why would you help me?" she asked, voice breaking. I hesitated. Because my father once died owing people who took advantage of him. Because I saw too much of my own family's story in her eyes. Because sometimes doing the right thing isn't convenient, but necessary. But all I said was, "Because you deserve it." We were almost in the clear. Almost. But fate had other plans. As we were walking out to the side lot, keys in hand, Cassidy spotted us. And the moment her shrill voice rang out across the showroom, my heart sank. "Hey, where do you think you're taking that car without a signed trade-in agreement?" Heads turned. Jake and Kyle were already standing up, tension rising in the air like static. Laura froze, terror flashing across her face. And in that split second, I realized something else. Something that would change everything. Cassidy wasn't just concerned about a car leaving. She was protecting something. Something she desperately didn't want us to uncover. Because hidden inside that Lincoln was a secret worth far more than $22,000. And they were willing to do anything to keep it hidden. Laura clutched the keys tighter, frozen like a deer in headlights. I took a slow step forward, shielding her slightly with my body. "She's the rightful owner," I said calmly, "and there's no paperwork signed. She's free to go." Cassidy's lips curled into a tight, angry smile. "Maybe we should have security check the vehicle before it leaves," she said sweetly. "Policy, you know." Jake and Kyle flanked her like guard dogs. Other employees peered over their desks, sensing the blood in the water. Laura tugged at my sleeve, whispering, "What's happening?" "Why are they acting like this?" I lowered my voice. "I don't know, but we're leaving. Now." I guided her quickly toward the Lincoln. The others followed, pretending to be casual, but their movements were too coordinated, too intentional. Something was very, very wrong. We got into the car, and I slid into the driver's seat. Laura clutched the passenger door like it was her only anchor to reality. I turned the key. The engine roared to life, smooth and flawless. Cassidy banged on the window. "You leave with that car, Alex, and you're fired," she screeched. I looked her dead in the eye. "Guess I'm unemployed then." I threw the Lincoln into drive and peeled out of the lot, tires screeching. In the rear-view mirror, I saw Travis running out the front door, waving his arms and shouting. Too late. We were gone. Only when we were a few blocks away did Laura finally speak. Why were they so scared? I shook my head, adrenaline making my hands tremble slightly on the wheel. I don't know, but we're going to find out. I pulled into a deserted gas station and parked behind the building, hidden from the road. Then I turned to her. Something's wrong. Really wrong. That message we found? The way they tried to trap you? Laura swallowed hard. I don't understand. I popped the trunk. We're going to search the car. The trunk was immaculate at first glance. Just a spare tire, an emergency kit, and a few old grocery bags. Nothing unusual, but something gnawed at me. The lining under the trunk floor looked newer, slightly different in color from the rest. I pulled it back carefully, and there it was, a hidden compartment. Laura gasped, hands flying to her mouth. Inside was a slim metal box, locked tight. I glanced around. No tools, no crowbars, nothing. I looked at Laura. "Do you have the spare key? Any chance your husband left you something?" She shook her head miserably. "I barely knew where he kept the paperwork. He didn't tell me about anything like this." I ran my fingers along the box's edge, and then I felt it. A tiny sliding panel on the side. Primitive, old school, meant for quick access. I slid it open and heard a faint click. The box popped open. Inside were two things: a thick stack of papers tied with a rubber band, and a small black flash drive. Laura and I stared at it like it might explode. "What is this?" she whispered. "I don't know," I said, "but your husband clearly didn't want anyone at Riverton to find it." I flipped through the papers first. Bank statements, corporate ledgers, internal emails, all from Riverton Motors, all pointing to something ugly. Fraud, money laundering, fake appraisals, shell sales to ghost buyers. And at the bottom, names of employees: Cassidy, Jake, Kyle, Travis, even the general manager. They were all part of it. A dirty, rotten web stretching back years. Laura's voice trembled. "My husband, he worked there years ago, before he got sick. He must have found out somehow." I nodded slowly, the pieces snapping together like a puzzle. "He tried to blow the whistle," I said, "but he got sick. And when he died, they must have assumed the evidence died with him." Laura's hands shook as she picked up the flash drive. "But he hid it. In the car." "They didn't know," I said grimly, "and they were terrified it might surface. That's why they tried to underpay her, why they tried to scare her, why Cassidy practically shrieked when we tried to leave. They were protecting themselves, their secrets, their crimes. And now Laura and I were holding the smoking gun." I leaned back against the driver's seat, mind racing. Options, risks, paths forward. "If we go public with this," I began, "they'll come after us." Laura looked at me, fear and determination battling inside her. "What should we do?" I stared at the flash drive, and I made a second reckless decision that day, maybe even more dangerous than the first. "We're going to finish what your husband started," I said, "and we're going to burn them to the ground." But we had no idea. Someone had already followed us, and they weren't coming to negotiate. They were coming to silence us, permanently. It started with a faint glint in the gas station mirror. A black SUV, parked just across the street, engine idling. Too far to make out the driver's face, but the way the headlights flickered toward us once, then again, felt deliberate. I swallowed hard. "Laura," I said urgently, "get in the car, now." She didn't ask questions. She simply obeyed, slipping into the passenger seat, hands trembling. I slammed the trunk shut and threw the Lincoln into reverse, tires squealing against the cracked asphalt. The SUV pulled out the same instant we did, their movements smooth, coordinated, trained, not amateurs. I turned onto the highway, gunning the engine. Laura clutched the dashboard, eyes wide. "Are they following us?" "Yes," I said grimly, "and they're not trying to hide it anymore." The SUV kept pace easily. Every turn I made, they mirrored. Every lane I switched, they slid right after. We were being hunted, and I had no plan. We sped through the edge of town, past the strip malls and fast food joints, past the dying shopping centers, and the SUV stayed glued to our bumper like a shadow. My mind raced. I couldn't lead them to my apartment. I couldn't lead them to hers, if she even still had a place to stay. I couldn't call the police, not yet. Not with dirty cops possibly in the pocket of Riverton Motors. We needed cover, somewhere public, somewhere they wouldn't risk causing a scene. Then it hit me. "The old fairgrounds," I said, mostly to myself. Laura clutched her seatbelt tighter. "What's at the fairgrounds?" "A chance," I said. "Maybe the only one we've got." The fairgrounds were abandoned most days. But today, blessedly, the farmers' market was in full swing. Crowds of people bustled between stalls, families wandered with shopping bags and lemonade cups. I pulled into the dusty parking lot, weaving through the lines of trucks and battered sedans. The SUV hesitated for a split second, just long enough for me to dart into a tight space between two giant pickup trucks. I killed the engine. "Get out," I hissed. "Move fast. Stay close." We slipped into the crowd just as the black SUV cruised slowly by, searching. But they didn't stop. Didn't chase us into the crush of people. Too public. Too risky. For now. We found a bench under a shaded pavilion, hidden behind a cluster of elderly women selling homemade jam. Laura's face was ghost pale. She clutched the flash drive in one hand and the papers in the other, as if letting go would mean death. I tried to steady my breathing. Tried to think. "We need help," I muttered. "Who can we trust?" she whispered. I thought about it, long and hard, and realized the list was painfully short. There was one person, only one. An old high school friend turned journalist, independent, brutally honest, the kind of guy who didn't back down from a story no matter who tried to silence him. His name was Eli Grant, and if anyone could take down Riverton Motors, it was him. I pulled out my phone. Hands trembling slightly, I dialed his number from memory. It rang twice before he answered. "Alex?" he said, surprised. "Man, it's been forever. What's up?" "Eli," I said, voice low and urgent. "I've got a story for you. A big one." He laughed. "I'm knee-deep in city council scandals, man. Can it wait?" "No," I said. "If I don't tell you now, I might not live long enough to tell you later." The silence on the line was immediate and chilling. "Where are you?" he asked sharply. I gave him the name of the farmer's market, told him to meet me at the old covered stage in the back. He didn't argue, didn't even ask for details, just said, "Stay where you are." "I'm 20 minutes out." I hung up and turned to Laura. "Help is coming." She gave a shaky nod. But I could see the doubt in her eyes. We weren't out of the woods yet, not even close. For 15 agonizing minutes we sat there, watching, waiting. Every shadow made me tense. Every black SUV sent my heart into my throat, but somehow, miraculously, they didn't find us. Not yet. Finally, I spotted Eli's battered Jeep rumbling across the lot. He climbed out, looking exactly the same. Rumpled shirt, old baseball cap, camera slung around his neck. When he saw me, his face darkened instantly. He recognized the fear, the stakes. We met him halfway. I shoved the flash drive and papers into his hands without preamble. "Riverton Motors," I said. "Money laundering, fraud, fake sales, a death connected to the cover-up." Eli's eyebrows shot up. He flipped through the papers, scanning rapidly. His face went from curious to grim in seconds. "Jesus," he muttered. "This is huge." He tucked the evidence into his backpack immediately. Then he looked at us, dead serious. "Listen, if they know you have this, you're not safe. Not today, not tomorrow, not until this story runs and the whole place burns." Laura shivered. I nodded grimly. "I figured," I said. Eli jerked his head toward his Jeep. "Come on. We'll hole up at my place until I can get this to my editor. I know a few people who can keep us off the radar until it hits the press." We started moving, fast, keeping low between the stalls, blending into the families and vendors. But as we crossed toward the Jeep, I caught a glimpse over my shoulder and saw the black SUV again. This time, the window rolled down. A glint of steel. A gun. "Down!" I shouted. I tackled Laura first, pushing her hard toward a row of crates stacked high with jars of homemade preserves. The bullet whizzed past my ear, close enough that I felt the air split. Screams erupted across the market. Vendors dropped their wares. Children cried. People scattered in every direction. Eli reacted instantly, crouching low and pulling a small pistol from under his jacket. He kept it low, hidden, but ready. Of course he carried. He had reported from war zones. He knew exactly what kind of danger this was. The SUV peeled out from its spot, tires kicking up gravel. 2 men jumped out, dressed like casual civilians, but their movements were tight, practiced. Not random thugs, hired professionals. One of them barked into a radio. "Target is mobile, moving to intercept." I grabbed Laura's hand. "Move!" We sprinted toward Eli's Jeep. Eli fired a warning shot, low into the ground, forcing the 2 men to hesitate for half a second. It was enough. We reached the Jeep and dove inside. Eli floored it without even closing his door properly. The tires squealed, the vehicle fishtailing before gripping the road. In the rearview mirror, I saw the 2 men pile back into the black SUV and give chase. "They won't stop!" Laura cried. Her voice cracked, panic creeping in. "They won't have a choice soon," Eli grunted. "I know back roads they don't." We tore through the side streets, weaving between slow-moving trucks and confused pedestrians. The SUV stayed close, bumping through potholes, relentless. "How bad is this?" Eli shouted over the roar of the engine. "Worse than you think," I said. "They have connections, money, maybe even cops." Eli swore under his breath. Perfect, just perfect. He cut down an alley barely wide enough for the Jeep. The SUV tried to follow but got stuck for a precious few seconds behind a parked delivery truck. It bought us time. Not much, but enough. We pulled off the main road, heading toward the outskirts of town. Old farmland, worn-down houses, long stretches of open fields. Eli slowed slightly, watching the mirrors. The SUV was nowhere in sight, for now. "We can't keep running," Laura said, voice shaking. "They'll find us. They'll never stop." I met her eyes. "I know. That's why we're going to end it." Eli pulled into a crumbling barnyard, half hidden behind a grove of trees. We rolled the Jeep inside the dusty ruins of an old barn and killed the engine. Silence settled around us, broken only by the distant hum of bees in the fields. We sat there for a long moment, catching our breath, listening, waiting. Eli finally spoke. "I'll get the story out. Once it's public, they can't touch you without drawing more heat. But until then, we're targets," I finished. He nodded grimly. Laura hugged the flash drive to her chest, tears slipping silently down her face. "I just wanted to sell his car," she whispered. "I just wanted to say goodbye." The grief in her voice nearly broke me. All of this, the danger, the fear, none of it was supposed to happen. Not to her, not again. I made a silent promise to myself, right there. Whatever it took, I would see this through. I would protect her. I would finish what her husband started, even if it cost me everything. Suddenly, the faint crunch of tires on gravel snapped us alert. Eli grabbed his pistol. I grabbed the tire iron from under the Jeep's seat. Not ideal, but it would have to do. We peered through the cracks in the barn walls. The black SUV rolled slowly past the tree line, moving like a shark scenting blood. They were searching, hunting, and they were close. Eli's jaw tightened. "We're not going to survive a direct fight," he said quietly, "not without a plan." I nodded. Adrenaline burned through me. "I'll draw them off," I said. "Lead them away from Laura and the evidence." Laura gasped. "No, you can't." "I can," I said firmly, "and I will." Eli handed me his phone. "Take this. If you get clear, call me. I'll have backup waiting." I squeezed Laura's hand once, tightly, and then slipped out the side of the barn, keeping low, keeping quiet. The fields stretched out in front of me, golden and endless under the afternoon sun. No cover, no shadows, nowhere to hide. Perfect. I sprinted across the field, making no attempt to be quiet. Let them see me. Let them chase me. Behind me, I heard the SUV roar to life. Shouts, footsteps pounding. They took the bait. They were coming for me, and I wasn't planning on making it easy. I sprinted across the open field, heart pounding like a drum inside my chest. The SUV tore after me, bouncing violently over the uneven ground. I zigzagged, forcing them to adjust their path. Bullets kicked up dirt behind me, each shot making my legs pump faster. I didn't look back. I couldn't afford to. Ahead, I spotted a narrow creek. Small, shallow, but it would buy me seconds. Maybe just enough. I leapt the creek as the SUV struggled to slow down in time. The heavy vehicle skidded, tires losing grip on the muddy edge. For a terrifying moment, it teetered, then plunged halfway into the ditch, stuck fast. The driver cursed loudly, slamming fists against the dashboard. The two men inside scrambled out, weapons drawn. But now they were on foot. And I had distance. I kept running toward the tree line at the edge of the property, lungs burning, vision narrowing to a tunnel. Behind me, shouts echoed across the field. They were closing the distance. Faster than I expected. Faster than I could outrun. I ducked into the trees, weaving between the trunks. Low branches clawed at my clothes and face, but I didn't slow. I spotted an old hunting blind up ahead, a half-collapsed wooden structure about 10 feet off the ground. An idea sparked. Risky, but better than dying, tired in an open field. I climbed it, fast and silent, pulling myself into the platform. Flattening myself against the rotting wood, I slowed my breathing, forcing myself to become invisible. Seconds later, they charged into the woods. One of them, tall, heavy-set, shaved head, shouted, "Split up! Fan out!" I stayed completely still, listening, waiting. The footsteps grew fainter, but never far enough. They knew I was close. They could smell it. Suddenly, a footstep directly beneath me. So close I could hear the man's ragged breathing. I gripped the tire iron tighter, heart hammering, praying he wouldn't look up, praying the rotting structure would hold my weight just a little longer. Then, a twig snapped behind him. Both men spun around, distracted. A figure emerged from the trees, moving fast, shouting something I couldn't hear. Eli. He fired a warning shot into the air, drawing their attention, and before they could react properly, backup poured in behind him. Two unmarked SUVs skidded to a stop. Armed officers in plain clothes fanned out, weapons drawn. Not local cops, federal agents. Eli had called every favor he had. "Drop your weapons," someone bellowed. "Now!" The two thugs hesitated, just a second too long. The agents didn't. They tackled them hard to the ground, pinning them with brutal efficiency. Handcuffs clicked shut. The fight was over, for now. I climbed down slowly, legs shaking. Eli met me halfway, clapping me hard on the shoulder. "You're lucky I'm stubborn," he said, flashing a grim smile. "I wasn't going to let you be some headline about a tragic, unsolved death." I managed a weak laugh. "Thanks, man. You saved my life." He shrugged. "Get used to it. You're going to owe me beers for the rest of your life." The agents found Laura back at the barn, scared but unharmed. They escorted her carefully, treating her like a witness, not a suspect. She clutched the flash drive and papers like precious relics. One of the lead agents, a stern woman with silver hair, pulled me aside. "You understand what you've uncovered, right?" she said. "This isn't just dealership fraud. It's organized crime, money laundering, racketeering, even ties to bigger syndicates across state lines." I nodded, the weight of it all settling on my shoulders. "It wasn't just a dirty dealership," I said quietly. "It was a front." She nodded grimly. "And thanks to you, and your friend, we're going to tear it down. Every last piece of it." The story hit the news within days. Headlines screamed across every local station and even national outlets. Whistleblower widow and dealership employee uncover massive fraud ring. Cassidy, Jake, Kyle, Travis, even the general manager, all arrested, all facing decades in prison. Riverton Motors shut its doors permanently, its sign taken down in the dead of night, like a shameful secret finally exposed to daylight. Laura used the money from the sale of the Lincoln to start fresh. She moved to a small coastal town, away from the city, where she could breathe again, where the ghosts of her husband's death didn't lurk around every corner. Before she left, she hugged me tightly. "You didn't just save the car," she whispered. "You saved me." I didn't know what to say, so I just hugged her back. Sometimes words weren't enough. Sometimes actions had to carry the meaning. As for me, I left the car business behind. I couldn't stay after what I'd seen, after what I'd been part of without even knowing it. I took a job working for Eli's publication, investigating businesses, exposing fraud, hunting the rot that festered in the dark corners of society. It wasn't easy. It wasn't safe, but it mattered. And sometimes, when the nights are quiet and the doubts creep in, I think about Laura, about the way she clutched that evidence like a lifeline, about the courage it took for her to trust me. And I remind myself, one small act of decency can change everything, even in a place as cold and cruel as a car dealership. Sometimes the smallest decisions, to help, to care, to stand up, create ripples that change lives forever. Not every story ends with justice, but this one did because one widow refused to be silenced, and one man refused to look away. If you found this story powerful, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more unforgettable stories just like this. Your support helps us keep sharing moments that truly matter.